The blue lights of the medical bay flickered as Maya Brooks checked the last readout on her datapad. She had been working for 6 hours straight, cataloging the different biological responses of the alien crew members aboard the Horizon's Edge. The ship was quiet now, most of the crew resting in their quarters after a long day of system checks and diplomatic reports. Maya stretched her arms above her head and heard her shoulders pop. She was tired but satisfied with the work. Being the chief medical liaison on a joint human-alien vessel was challenging, but she loved every moment of it. 2 years ago, humanity had barely been allowed to observe council meetings. Now here she was, working alongside 3 different alien species on a deep space research mission. She walked over to the food dispenser to grab something to eat. The console on the wall had been acting strange all day, but engineering said they would fix it tomorrow. Maya pressed the button for coffee and the machine hummed to life. She waited, watching the cup fill with dark liquid. Then the console sparked. Maya jerked her hand back, but not fast enough. The electrical discharge caught her fingers and palm, and a jolt of pain shot up her arm. She hissed through her teeth and looked down at her hand. The skin was red and already starting to blister across her palm. "Damn it," she muttered, shaking her hand instinctively. The burning sensation spread from her palm to her wrist. She turned and walked calmly back to her medical station, pulling out the burn treatment kit with her good hand. She had just started applying the gel when the door to the medical bay slid open. Commander Threx walked in, his reptilian features sharp in the blue light. The Vorath stood over 7 feet tall, his scales a deep green that seemed to shimmer when he moved. His yellow eyes fixed on Maya immediately. "Lieutenant Commander Brooks," he said, his voice a low rumble. "I came to retrieve the security report from your physical assessments." "Give me just a second, Commander," Maya said, carefully wrapping her burned hand with a thin bandage. "I had a small accident with the dispenser." Threx stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as he watched her work. Maya noticed his nostrils flare slightly, and she remembered that the Vorath had an excellent sense of smell. He could probably detect the burned flesh. "You are injured," Threx stated, his tone sharp. "You should call for medical assistance immediately." Maya glanced up at him and smiled slightly. "I am medical assistance, Commander. It's just a minor burn. I'll be fine in a few days." She finished wrapping her hand and flexed her fingers carefully. It hurt, but nothing she couldn't handle. She had burned herself worse cooking dinner as a teenager. Maya reached for her data pad and pulled up the files Threx needed. "Here's the security report," she said, transferring the data to his device. Everyone passed their physicals. "No concerns." Threx took the data, but he did not leave. He stood there, staring at her with an expression she could not quite read. The Vorath were difficult to understand sometimes. Their culture was so different from human culture that misunderstandings happened constantly. "You are not experiencing pain?" Threx asked finally. Maya blinked. "What? No, I definitely am. Burns hurt quite a bit, actually. But you continue to work." You smile. "You do not call for help?" Threx's tail swished behind him, a sign of agitation. When a Vorath sustains a burn injury, they immediately seek medical treatment and pain management. The pain is too severe to function properly. "Oh," Maya said, understanding dawning. "Well, humans have pretty good pain tolerance, I guess. I mean, it hurts, but I can push through it. It's not going to kill me or anything." Threx's eyes widened slightly. "You can push through it," he repeated slowly. "This suggests that humans have diminished pain receptors. This is concerning for field operations." "Wait, no," Maya said quickly. "That's not what I meant. I feel pain normally. I just don't let it stop me from doing my job." But Threx was already turning toward the door. "I must report this to the captain. If humans cannot properly register danger through pain response, this is a significant safety concern." "Commander, that's not—" Maya started, but the door slid shut behind him. She stood there for a moment, her burned hand throbbing, and sighed. "Great." Over the next few days, Maya noticed a change in how the alien crew members treated her. They watched her more carefully during operations. When she lifted heavy equipment or worked in the cramped maintenance tubes, she could feel their eyes on her. Conversations would stop when she entered a room, then resume in hushed tones. Jake Morrison, her fellow human officer and friend, found her in the observation deck a week after the incident. He floated over in the low-gravity section, a concerned look on his face. "Hey," he said, settling beside her. "You heard the rumors?" Maya nodded, watching the stars drift past the massive windows. "Hard not to. Apparently humans are either too dumb to feel pain properly, or were biologically defective. Threx filed a report with the Galactic Council, Jake said quietly. He recommended that humans be restricted from high-risk missions until our pain response can be properly evaluated. Maya turned to look at him.
He what?
Yeah, it gets worse. Jake pulled up his datapad and showed her a newsfeed. The Council is debating it. Some species think humans are dangerous because we don't respond appropriately to injury. Others think we're too primitive to understand when we're in real danger. Maya read through the article, her jaw tightening. The Kelman ambassador had written an entire opinion piece about how pain sensitivity was a crucial evolutionary trait that prevented species from harming themselves. The Zithari Science Council had published research suggesting that humans might have damaged neural pathways from their violent evolutionary history. This is insane, Maya said. We feel pain just fine. We just don't let it control us. Try explaining that to species who evolved completely differently, Jake said. The Vorath have pain receptors that are designed to shut them down if they're injured. It prevents them from fighting through wounds and dying. The Kelman have distributed nervous systems that amplify pain signals to protect their colonial structure. To them, our ability to ignore pain looks like a malfunction. Maya handed the datapad back. So what do we do? Captain Price is talking to the Council now, Jake said. But honestly, I don't know if talking is going to be enough. They don't understand us, Maya. They think they're protecting us by limiting what we can do. Maya looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was deciding humanity's future based on a fundamental misunderstanding. They saw human endurance as weakness. They saw determination as defect. There has to be a way to make them understand, Maya said quietly. Jake was silent for a moment. Then he said, I think the only way they'll understand is if we show them. Really show them what humans are capable of. Maya nodded slowly. She did not know it yet. But soon she would have exactly that chance, and it would change everything the galaxy thought they knew about humanity. The message came through official channels 3 weeks later. Captain Helen Price called an emergency meeting in the main conference room, and every human officer on the horizon's edge attended. Maya sat between Jake and Lieutenant Chris Yang, watching the captain's face as she read from her datapad. The Galactic Council has announced a new requirement, Helen said, her voice steady but tight. Any species wishing to participate in deep space exploration and high-risk missions must pass a standardized pain tolerance assessment. The test was designed by the Kelman Medical Institute and will be administered on Neutral Station 7. Chris leaned forward. What kind of test are we talking about, Captain? A graduated pain stimulus assessment, Helen replied. Subjects will be exposed to increasing levels of controlled pain while their biological and psychological responses are monitored. The goal is to determine if a species can properly recognize and respond to danger signals. Jake muttered a curse under his breath. Maya felt her stomach tighten. This was because of her. Because Threx had seen her treat a burn and keep working. Now all of humanity had to prove themselves. When does the testing begin? Maya asked. 2 weeks, Helen said. Each species is allowed to send 3 representatives. The Council will evaluate the results and make their determination about mission eligibility. She paused, looking at each of them. I know what you're all thinking. Yes, this is discriminatory. Yes, we're being singled out. But if we refuse to participate, humanity will be barred from deep space operations entirely. The room fell silent. Maya thought about what that would mean. Humans had worked for decades to earn their place among the galactic community. They had proven themselves in diplomacy, in science, in engineering. But now, because of one misunderstood moment, all of that progress was at risk. I'll do it, Maya said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Helen's expression softened. Maya, you don't have to volunteer. We can select candidates through proper channels. No, Maya said, standing up. This started with me. Let me finish it. I'll represent humanity. Jake grabbed her arm. Maya, do you understand what you're signing up for? This isn't just a physical exam. The Kelman designed this test to push subjects to their breaking point. Species have withdrawn from the assessment because it was too intense. Then I'll be the first human to take it, Maya said firmly. And I'll show them that we're not defective, we're just different. Helen studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right. Lieutenant Commander Brooks will be our first representative. Jake, Chris, I want you both to volunteer as backups. We'll send a formal response to the council today. The meeting ended, and Maya walked back to her quarters feeling the weight of what she had just agreed to do. She sat on her bunk and stared at the wall, trying to imagine what the test would be like. Pain was subjective. What hurt one species might not hurt another. But the Kelman had found a way to standardize it somehow. She pulled up information about the Kelman on her datapad. They were insectoid beings with complex colonial structures. Their nervous systems were distributed across multiple segments, which meant a pain signal in one part of their body could affect their entire being. They had evolved this way to protect the colony. If one Kelman was injured, all nearby Kelman would feel it and respond. Maya read about the Vorath next. Their pain receptors were designed to shut down motor functions if an injury was severe enough. It was a survival mechanism. An injured Vorath who kept fighting would bleed out and die, so their bodies forced them to stop and seek help. Then she read about the Zithari. As crystalline beings, they experienced pain as fractures in their molecular structure. A crack could spread through their entire body if they were not careful. Pain, for them, was an immediate threat to their existence. All three species had evolved to treat pain as a stop command, an absolute signal that something was wrong and needed immediate attention. But humans were different. Humans had evolved as endurance hunters, chasing prey across vast distances despite exhaustion and pain. Human women gave birth in agony but kept going because the alternative was death for both mother and child. Humans broke bones and kept walking, burned themselves and kept cooking, cut themselves and kept working. Pain, for humans, was information, not a command. 2 weeks passed faster than Maya expected. She spent the time preparing mentally, reading about pain management techniques and meditation practices. Jake tried to convince her to back out several times, but she refused. This was something she had to do. The day of the assessment arrived. Maya boarded a transport shuttle along with representatives from a dozen other species. The flight to Neutral Station 7 took 6 hours, and Maya spent most of it in silence, focusing on her breathing and centering her thoughts. The station was massive, a spinning wheel in space that generated artificial gravity. Maya followed the other candidates through sterile white corridors to a large chamber. The walls were transparent, allowing observers to watch from outside. Maya could see hundreds of aliens gathered, their various forms pressing close to the windows. A Kelman official approached her. The alien was smaller than Maya expected, maybe 4 feet tall, with a segmented body covered in iridescent chitin. Multiple limbs extended from its thorax, and compound eyes regarded her with what might have been curiosity. "You are the human representative," the Kelman said, its voice translated through a device on its chest. "I am Coordinator Zilth. I will be administering your assessment today." "Lieutenant Commander Maya Brooks," Maya replied. "I'm ready." Zilth's antennae twitched. "The assessment consists of 3 levels. At any point, you may withdraw by pressing the red button on the wall. There is no shame in withdrawal. Many species find level 2 to be their limit." "I understand," Maya said. "Then we will begin." Zilth gestured to a platform in the center of the room. "Please stand in the designated area." Maya walked to the platform and stood in the circle marked on the floor. She could see Threx standing. Outside the observation window, his yellow eyes fixed on her. Other members of her crew were there too, along with dozens of council officials and representatives from other species. Zilth operated a control panel. Level 1 will test thermal pain tolerance. You will experience increasing heat until you signal withdrawal or reach the maximum threshold. Do you consent? "I consent," Maya said clearly. The floor beneath her feet began to warm. At first it was pleasant, like standing on sun-warmed pavement. Then it grew hotter. Maya felt the heat through her boots, then through the soles of her feet. It became uncomfortable, then painful. Her instinct was to step off the platform, but she planted her feet and breathed slowly. The heat continued to rise. Maya felt sweat break out on her forehead. Her feet were burning now, real pain shooting up her legs. She glanced at the observation window and saw several aliens turning away. Through the transparent floor, she could see Zilth watching her vital signs on a monitor. The pain intensified. Maya's vision started to blur at the edges. She thought about pulling her feet up, hopping from foot to foot, anything to relieve the burning. But she stayed still, breathing through the pain, focusing on a point on the far wall. Finally, the heat began to decrease. Maya let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Her feet throbbed, and she knew she would have blisters, but she had made it through level 1. Zilth's voice came through the speaker. Most species withdraw at level 1. The Zithari representative experienced molecular fractures and had to be treated. You may withdraw now with honor. Maya looked at the red button on the wall. Then she looked back at Zilth. Continue to level 2. A murmur rippled through the observation crowd. Maya saw Threx lean closer to the window, his expression unreadable. She turned her attention back to the platform and waited for whatever came next. Level 2 began without warning. Maya felt pressure building around her body, like invisible hands squeezing her from all directions. The sensation started gentle, almost like a firm hug, but within seconds it intensified into something much worse. Her ribs compressed. Her lungs struggled to expand. Maya tried to take a deep breath but could only manage shallow gasps. The pressure increased, crushing her chest, her arms, her legs. She felt her bones creaking under the force. Pain radiated from every point of contact, sharp and overwhelming. Maya's vision darkened at the edges. Her body screamed at her to press the red button to make it stop. Every survival instinct told her this was damage, this was danger, this was wrong. But she had seen the data. The test was calibrated to stop before causing permanent harm. The pain was real, but the actual danger was minimal. She focused on breathing, short, quick breaths. In and out. In and out. The pressure felt like it would crack her ribs, split her sternum, collapse her entirely. Maya closed her eyes and thought about her training. She had run marathons where every muscle screamed at her to stop. She had completed survival training in freezing water. She had pushed through migraines that felt like her skull was splitting. This was just another threshold, just another barrier, just pain. Through the observation window, Threx watched in stunned silence. The pressure gauge on Zilth's monitor showed levels that would have rendered a Vorath unconscious. The neural pain receptors tracking Maya's responses showed maximum activation. She was experiencing the full intensity of the stimulus. There was no dulled sensation, no biological defect. She was simply enduring. The pressure reached its peak and held there. Maya's heartbeat pounded in her ears. Blood vessels in her eyes burst from the strain, turning the whites red. Tears streamed down her face, not from crying, but from the sheer physical stress. Her hands clenched into fists so tight that her fingernails cut into her palms. 30 seconds passed, then 60, then 90. Finally, the pressure began to release. Maya sucked in a deep, ragged breath. Her body shook from the strain. She bent forward, hands on her knees, breathing hard. Every muscle trembled. But she was still standing. Zilth's voice came through the speaker again, but this time there was something different in the tone. Confusion, maybe, or disbelief. Level 2 complete. The Vorath representative lost consciousness at 45 seconds. You remained aware for the entire duration. This is unprecedented. Maya straightened slowly, wiping the tears and sweat from her face. She could taste blood where she had bitten her tongue. Her body felt like it had been put through a compressor, but she was functional. She could still move, still think, still act. Level 3, she said, her voice hoarse but clear. The observation area erupted in a chaos of sounds. Different species communicating in different ways, all expressing shock or concern or disbelief. Maya saw Jake pressing his hands against the window, shaking his head. Captain Helen stood beside him, her face pale but her expression proud. Zilth emerged from the control station and approached Maya. The Kelman's antennae moved in rapid patterns. Human Brooks, you do not understand. No species has ever completed level 3. It is designed as a theoretical maximum. We have never had a subject survive level 2. But the test goes to level 3, Maya said. So let me try. The pain will be neural, Zilth said slowly. Direct stimulation of pain receptors throughout your entire nervous system. It is not localized. It is not something you can mentally compartmentalize. It will be everywhere all at once. Maya met the Kelman's compound eyes. I understand. I still want to continue. Zilth's antennae drooped. If you insist, I will administer the test. But I must warn you, the Kelman who designed this level did so based on theoretical models. They never expected it to be used on a living subject. Then I guess I'll be the first, Maya said. Zilth returned to the control station. Maya positioned herself back on the platform and closed her eyes. She thought about why she was doing this. It was not about pride or proving something to herself. It was about showing the galaxy that humans belonged here, that humanity deserved to explore the stars, to take risks, to push boundaries. She thought about all the humans throughout history who had endured impossible pain, the explorers who had crossed frozen wastelands, the soldiers who had carried wounded comrades through battlefields, the mothers who had given birth in caves and deserts and forests with no help, no medicine, nothing but their own determination to bring life into the world. Maya was not special. She was just human, and humans endured. Beginning level 3, Zilth announced. The pain hit her like lightning, striking every nerve at once. Maya's entire body locked up, muscles contracting involuntarily. It felt like fire and ice and electricity all combined, shooting through every fiber of her being. Her brain, her spine, her skin, her organs, everything screamed in unified agony. Maya could not breathe, could not think, could not process anything except the overwhelming sensation of pain. It was not localized in one area. It was everywhere. Her fingers, her toes, her scalp, her teeth, her eyes. Even her hair seemed to hurt. Her body wanted to shut down, wanted to retreat into unconsciousness to escape the sensation. But Maya held on. She held on because she knew this was the last test. She held on because thousands of humans were watching from Earth and from ships across the galaxy. She held on because if she failed now, humanity would be judged as weak. But most of all, she held on because she was stubborn, because some deep primal part of her refused to give up, because pain was just a signal and she could choose whether to obey it. Time became meaningless. Maya did not know if 10 seconds had passed or 10 minutes. The pain was a constant, unchanging thing. She could not fight it, could not push through it. She could only exist alongside it, accepting its presence while refusing to surrender to it. Her consciousness began to fracture. Part of her was aware of her body on the platform. Another part drifted somewhere else, somewhere quiet and dark. She thought she heard voices, but they seemed far away. Someone was shouting. Someone was crying. But it all felt distant, separated from her by layers of sensation. Then, like a wave receding, the pain began to fade. It did not disappear all at once. It withdrew slowly, releasing its grip on her nervous system one piece at a time. Maya felt control returning to her body. She realized she was on her knees. She did not remember falling. Her eyes opened. The observation area was in chaos. Aliens were pressed against the windows, their various forms creating a kaleidoscope of shapes and colors. Some were trying to get inside. Others were backing away in what might have been fear. Zilth stood beside her, all of its limbs extended in what Maya somehow knew was a gesture of respect. "You completed level 3, the Kelman said quietly. "You endured for 47 seconds. The theoretical models suggested that any conscious being would lose awareness after 15 seconds. Maya tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. Zilth produced a container of water and Maya drank gratefully. Her hands shook so badly that she could barely hold the container. "Why?" Zilth asked. "Why would you endure such suffering? You could have withdrawn at any time. There is no dishonor in acknowledging pain." Maya handed back the empty container. Her voice was rough when she finally spoke. "Because you needed to understand. Humans feel pain. We feel all of it. But we do not let it stop us when something important is at stake." Zilth's antennae trembled. "Your species is either the bravest or the most foolish I have encountered." "Perhaps both." Maya smiled weakly. "Yeah, that sounds about right." The door to the assessment chamber opened and Jake rushed in, followed by Helen and half the human crew. They surrounded Maya, helping her to her feet, supporting her weight. Threx stood in the doorway, his yellow eyes wide, his tail completely still. Maya looked at him over Jake's shoulder. "Still think humans can't feel pain properly, Commander?" Threx did not answer. He just stared at her like she was something he had never seen before. Something he did not understand. Something that had fundamentally changed his view of the universe. Maya spent 3 days in the medical bay recovering from the assessment. Her body had been pushed to its absolute limit, and even with advanced alien medical technology, healing took time. She had burst blood vessels, strained muscles, and neural pathways that needed to reset. But she was alive and she was conscious, and according to Zilth, that alone was a medical miracle. The news of her achievement spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Every major news network carried the story. Video footage of her enduring Level 3 played on repeat. Scientists from a dozen species requested permission to study her. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the implications. On the fourth day, Captain Helen came to visit. She sat beside Maya's bed and smiled. "You're famous, also possibly insane. The medical staff still can't believe you survived. How are the crew?" Maya asked. Her voice was stronger now, though she still felt exhausted. "Shocked. Proud. Jake hasn't left the medical bay except to sleep. Threx has been standing outside your door for 2 days straight." Helen paused. "The council wants to speak with you as soon as you're cleared for duty." Maya nodded slowly. "What's their verdict? Are humans still restricted?" "That's what they want to discuss," Helen said carefully. "Your test results have caused quite a debate. Some council members are arguing that humans are too dangerous to include in standard operations. Others are saying humanity represents a resource that has been completely underestimated." "Dangerous?" Maya frowned. "I proved we can handle pain. How does that make us dangerous?" "Think about it from their perspective," Helen said. "Every other species in the galaxy has biological limiters. Pain forces them to stop, to retreat, to seek help. But humans can override those signals. To species that evolve differently, that looks like a malfunction that could lead to reckless behavior." Maya closed her eyes. She had endured 3 levels of agony to prove humans were capable, and now some aliens thought that capability itself was the problem. "So what happens now?" "Now you rest," Helen said. "And when you're ready, you explain to the council what humanity really is. Not just what we can endure, but why we endure it." 6 days after the assessment, Maya stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, a circular room with representatives from 64 different species arranged in ascending tiers. Holographic displays showed her image to those watching from across the galaxy. Maya wore her formal uniform, and despite the lingering soreness in her body, she stood straight and tall. The council speaker, an elderly Zithari whose crystalline body reflected light in rainbow patterns, addressed her first. "Lieutenant Commander Maya Brooks, your performance in the pain tolerance assessment has prompted significant discussion among council members. We have questions about human biology and psychology. I'm happy to answer them," Maya said. A Vorath representative stood up, his green scales darker than Threx's. "How is it possible for your species to function through pain levels that would incapacitate any rational being? Do humans have reduced cognitive function when injured?" "No," Maya said firmly. "Human cognitive function remains intact during pain. We feel pain as intensely as any species. Our brains process the signals, recognize the danger, and assess the situation. But we have the mental capacity to choose our response." A Kelman representative spoke next, her translation device giving her voice a musical quality. "But pain exists as a survival mechanism. To ignore it is to invite death. Your species should have died out if this trait is common." Maya took a breath. This was the important part, the explanation that would determine everything. Pain is information. For humans, it tells us something is wrong, but it does not control us. We evolved on a planet where survival meant pushing through difficulty. Our ancestors hunted by chasing animals for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They ran on injured legs, climbed with torn hands, fought while wounded. The ones who stopped when it hurt did not survive. The ones who kept going did. She paused, letting that sink in. Human women give birth in extreme pain. It is one of the most painful experiences a human can have, but they endure it because the alternative is the death of their child. Throughout our history, humans have performed incredible acts while suffering. We carried wounded friends to safety. We built shelters with broken bones. We found water with fever burning through our bodies. Pain did not stop us because stopping meant death. The chamber was silent. Maya continued. But we are not reckless. We are not self-destructive. We understand our limits. We know when to rest, when to heal, when to seek help. The difference is that we make that choice consciously. Pain informs our decisions, but it does not make our decisions for us. The Zithari speaker's crystals chimed softly. "You are saying that humans have separated sensation from response. That you feel pain but do not automatically obey it." "Exactly," Maya said. And that is not a flaw. It is an adaptation that has allowed humanity to survive in harsh environments and overcome tremendous obstacles. A new voice spoke up. Maya recognized the speaker as a member of the Quellan species, a floating organism contained in a bubble of specialized atmosphere. But how do we know humans will not endanger themselves or others by ignoring warning signs? If you do not respond appropriately to pain, you could continue operating equipment while injured, make poor decisions during crises, or push beyond safe limits. This was the fear, Maya realized. Not that humans were weak, but that they were too strong, that they would not stop when they should. Humans have been operating machinery, flying spacecraft, and conducting complex operations for centuries, Maya said. We have safety protocols, medical standards, and psychological training specifically designed to help us recognize when we need to stop. We do not ignore our bodies. We listen to them. We just have more control over how we respond. Jake had helped her prepare for these questions. They had anticipated every argument, every concern. But standing here now, facing dozens of alien species who genuinely could not understand human psychology, Maya realized that logic alone might not be enough. "May I tell you a story?" she asked. The speaker's crystals chimed in what might have been approval. "Proceed." "When I was 12 years old," Maya said, "I went hiking with my grandmother in the mountains. She was 70 years old and she loved climbing. We were miles from the nearest help when she slipped and broke her ankle. The bone came through the skin. I could see it. The chamber reacted with various expressions of distress," Maya continued. She could not walk. The pain was extreme, but she knew that if we stayed there we would both die from exposure when night came. So she taught me how to make a splint. She talked me through it step by step, even though every movement caused her agony. Then she used a walking stick and my shoulder for support, and we walked 5 miles back to safety. It took us 6 hours. Maya's voice grew stronger. She did not ignore the pain. She acknowledged it, assessed it, and decided that enduring it was better than the alternative. She made it to the hospital, got surgery, and recovered fully. That is what humans do. We make conscious choices about how much we can endure and why. The Quellan representative's bubble pulsed. Your grandmother survived because she could override her body's signals. But what about humans who make the wrong choice? Who push too far and harm themselves? That happens, Maya admitted. Sometimes humans misjudge. Sometimes we push beyond what we should. But we learn from those mistakes. We develop better judgment. And ultimately, the ability to endure difficulty has saved far more human lives than it has cost. Another representative stood up, a species Maya did not recognize. The alien's translation came through crisp and clear. What you describe sounds like a useful trait for extreme situations, but it also sounds exhausting. Do humans suffer more because they do not allow themselves to stop? Maya smiled slightly. Sometimes, yes. Human history is full of people who worked themselves too hard, who sacrificed too much, who did not rest when they should have. But it is also full of people who survived impossible situations because they refused to give up. The same trait that can lead to burnout can also lead to triumph. We are learning to balance it. The speaker's crystals chimed again. The council must deliberate on this matter. But I have one final question, Lieutenant Commander Brooks. In your culture, is the ability to endure pain seen as a virtue? Maya considered this carefully. Not always. We respect resilience, but we also value wisdom. The strongest humans are not the ones who endure the most pain. They are the ones who know when to endure and when to rest, when to push forward and when to retreat, when to be strong and when to ask for help. She paused. I volunteered for the assessment because humanity's place in the galactic community was at stake. That was worth enduring pain for, but I would not have done it just to prove I could. The speaker nodded slowly. The council will consider your words. We will reconvene tomorrow with our decision. Maya was dismissed and she walked out of the chamber with Jake at her side. Do you think it was enough? She asked quietly. I don't know, Jake said honestly, but you did everything you could. Now we wait. The wait was terrible. Maya returned to the horizon's edge and tried to keep busy, but every hour felt like a day. The crew was supportive, but she could see the worry in their eyes. If the council decided against humanity, it would undo years of diplomatic progress. Humans would be relegated to observation status, watching other species explore the stars while they remained on the sidelines. On the second day, Threx requested a meeting with her. They sat in the observation deck. the vast expanse of space stretching out before them. The Vorath commander was unusually still, his tail lying flat against the floor. "I owe you an apology," Threx said finally. "When I saw you burn your hand and continue working, I thought you were disabled. I believed your species lacked proper survival instincts. I was wrong." Maya looked at him. "You were trying to protect us." "I understand that." "No," Threx said firmly. "I was judging you by Vorath standards. I assumed that because you do not respond to pain the way my people do, something was wrong with you. But I have spent the last 10 days studying human history, reading your medical journals, watching recordings of human achievements." He paused. "Your species has accomplished incredible things specifically because you can endure what others cannot." "We're just different," Maya said. "Not better or worse, different." Threx's yellow eyes met hers. "I watched you complete level 3 of the assessment. The neural pain stimulation should have rendered you unconscious within seconds. Instead, you remained aware for nearly a minute. The medical staff told me that your conscious mind was fighting your body's automatic shutdown response. You were actively choosing to stay aware despite every biological signal telling you to retreat." "It hurt," Maya said quietly, "more than anything I've ever experienced. But I knew it would end. I knew I could survive it. So I did." "Why?" Threx asked. "Why not simply withdraw? You had already proven yourself by completing level 2. Maya thought about how to explain it. "Because humans have a saying, actions speak louder than words. I could have told the council that humans are capable. I could have shown them data and research, but none of that would have had the same impact as demonstrating it. Sometimes the only way to make people understand is to show them something they cannot ignore." Threx was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "In Vorath culture, pain is sacred. It is our body's way of protecting us from harm. To override that protection is considered a form of insanity. But after watching you, I am beginning to understand that human pain serves a different purpose. It is not a command. It is a warning, and you have the wisdom to choose when to heed that warning and when to push past it." "That's exactly right," Maya said, surprised at how clearly Threx had grasped the concept. "I have spoken with the council," Threx continued. "I testified that humans are not reckless or self-destructive, that your ability to endure pain is paired with judgment and intelligence. I told them that if I were going on a dangerous mission, I would want humans on my team, because I know that if things go wrong, if the situation becomes desperate, humans will not give up. They will find a way to continue." Maya felt emotion tighten her throat. "Thank you, Commander. That means a lot." "I also told them that humans have something my people lack," Threx added. "Hope. When a Vorath is injured badly enough, they lose consciousness because their body does not believe they can survive. But humans remain conscious. They keep fighting. They hold on to hope even in impossible situations. That is a strength the galaxy needs." The next morning, Maya was summoned back to the council chamber. This time, the entire crew of the Horizon's Edge was invited to attend. They filled the observation section, humans and aliens standing side by side. Maya stood before the council again, her heart pounding despite her calm exterior. The Zithari speaker rose, crystals chiming in a complex pattern. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's status. We have reviewed the assessment results, heard testimony from multiple species, and engaged in extensive debate. Lieutenant Commander Maya Brooks, your demonstration has given us much to consider." Maya waited, barely breathing. "We initially believed that humanity's response to pain indicated a biological deficiency. We now understand that we were wrong. Humanity possesses a rare and valuable trait, the ability to consciously choose response to pain stimulus. This is not a defect. It is an advanced evolutionary adaptation." Relief flooded through Maya, but the speaker was not finished. However, this trait also raises concerns. "The Council must ensure that human personnel understand the risks of overriding pain signals. Therefore, we are implementing new protocols. All humans serving on galactic missions must complete psychological evaluations to ensure they have proper judgment regarding their physical limits. Human medical officers will be assigned to all vessels with human crew members, and humans will be required to report injuries immediately, even if they believe they can continue working." The speaker's crystals shifted color. "These protocols are not restrictions. They are safeguards. We recognize that humanity's endurance is a tremendous asset, but we also recognize that humans must be protected from themselves. With these measures in place, the Galactic Council officially certifies humanity as qualified for all mission categories, including deep space exploration and high-risk operations. The chamber erupted in sound. Different species communicating in different ways, but the overall message was clear. Humanity had won. Maya felt Jake grab her shoulder, pulling her into a hug. The other humans were cheering, and even some of the alien crew members showed signs of celebration. The speaker chimed for silence. Lieutenant Commander Brooks, your courage and sacrifice have fundamentally changed how the galaxy views humanity. You have shown us that strength comes in many forms. The Council thanks you for your service. Maya bowed her head respectfully. Thank you, Speaker. I'm honored to represent my species. As the chamber cleared, Zilth approached Maya. The Kelman's antennae moved in slow, graceful patterns. I have been studying biology for 300 years. I have tested thousands of subjects across hundreds of species, but I have never witnessed anything like what you did. I just did what any human could do, Maya said. No, Zilth replied. What you did was remarkable even by human standards. I have been reading about your species since the assessment. Most humans would not have completed level 3. You possess something rare, extraordinary determination combined with extraordinary pain tolerance. You are not typical of your species. You are exceptional within it, Maya smiled. Maybe. But I learned from my grandmother. And she learned from her mother. And so on, going back thousands of generations. Every human carries that legacy. We're all capable of more than we think. Weeks passed. The Horizon's Edge resumed its mission, but everything had changed. The alien crew members treated the humans differently now. Not with fear or suspicion, but with respect. They asked questions about human culture, human history, human psychology. They wanted to understand the species that could endure the impossible. Maya returned to her regular duties, but she found herself in demand across the galaxy. Medical institutes wanted her to lecture on pain management. Military academies wanted her to train soldiers in mental resilience. Even civilian organizations requested her insights on human endurance. She declined most of these requests. She was not a hero or a celebrity. She was just a medical officer who had done what needed to be done. But she did agree to write a paper on human pain response, co-authored with Zilth. It became required reading at the Galactic Medical Institute. One evening, Maya found herself in the observation deck again. Threx joined her as he often did now. They had developed an unlikely friendship, the human who endured everything and the Vorath who had learned to see beyond his own cultural perspective. Do you regret it? Threx asked. The assessment caused you significant harm. You still have scars. Maya looked down at her hands. The burns from the thermal test had healed, but faint marks remained. No regrets. I did what I had to do, and it worked out. Humanity is fortunate to have you as their representative, Threx said. I'm just one person, Maya replied. There are billions of humans, and most of them are just as capable of endurance. Maybe more so. I was just in the right place at the right time. Or perhaps you were exactly who humanity needed at that moment, Threx suggested. Maya smiled. Maybe. Either way, it's done. Humans get to explore the stars. That's what matters. They stood in comfortable silence, watching distant nebulas swirl in patterns of light and color. Somewhere out there, human ships were charting new territories, making first contact with new species, pushing the boundaries of known space. And they could do so because one woman had shown the galaxy that humans feel pain just like everyone else. They just do not let it stop them. Far away, on Earth, Maya's grandmother watched news reports of her granddaughter's achievement. She sat in her living room, her once broken ankle aching with old age, and smiled. She remembered that day in the mountains, teaching her granddaughter about endurance and choice. She remembered explaining that pain was information, not a command. She had not known then that Maya would carry that lesson to the stars, that she would use it to change how an entire galaxy viewed humanity, but she was not surprised. She had always known her granddaughter was